Hey guys, what's good? Mike here. Thanks for tuning in to another video. Now, the stuff that I'm going to be talking about in this video, though it's targeted for UX designers and beneficial for UX designers, it's really beneficial for anybody in the tech space. All right, whether you're a UI designer, UX designer, front-end developer, back-end developer, product owner, IT professional, anybody in tech. The message is this, and specifically for us UX designers out there. If you are one of these folks, you should take on the task of designing, building a SaaS product. Yes, everybody should take on the task of building, designing a SaaS product. Now, there are multitudes of benefits why every one of us should do this. I'm going to go over a few, but in thinking about like the benefits I wanted to express in this video, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. It's nonstop. I can't even find a reason why you shouldn't, but here are 5 major reasons why I feel everybody should take on this task. Now, before I talk about them briefly, what is a SaaS product? You're probably new to this terminology. A SaaS product is an acronym for software as a service. SaaS, software as a service. Basically, any application on the market that's a non-social app, something that's not free, something that you pay monthly for, in the form of a subscription annually or an enterprise license. Like, I'll give you a few examples. I recently subscribed to an app called Monday.com. It's a spreadsheet app. I love that app. My wife uses DocuSign, which is a very popular app that she can't live without in her real estate business. Other apps like Basecamp, Trello, the list goes on. Zoom is a very popular one now. Anything that you pay monthly for, that's considered, in my opinion, a SaaS app, right? Software as a service. Enterprise. And so, but here are now I could go on and on and on and why, okay? But here are the 5 major reasons. And I'm going to go over them briefly and I'll expand. Number 1, it forces you to think critically and problem solve, all right? And think like a UX designer. That's number 1. Number 2, the components that makes up an enterprise or a SaaS product is all the interactions is right up, the alley of a UX design. Okay. We'll talk about all these things like hovers, overlays, drop downs and logins. We'll talk about that in a second. Number 3, the enterprise SaaS market is huge, right? So by you tapping into this, you're benefiting from it right away. Number 4 is, why wouldn't you want to take on an exciting, inspirational project and call it your own, right? Be your own boss, or be the person in charge of your own app, right? And then number 5 is the biggie. If you are successful in solving a real problem, you can benefit greatly because the financial aspect of a SaaS product is amazing. The residual monthly, financial aspect of a SaaS product is great, right? And, the business model is perfect. The monthly residuals, the annual residuals, the enterprise licensing business model is perfect. So why wouldn't you want the opportunity to build something that you can call your own, that you can benefit from and build wealth from? How cool is that? We'll talk about that in a second. But the 5 major reasons, right? So I always talk about building personal projects, right? Now, quick story. I've always done this, and I teach people this all the time. I say, hey, work on a project. And some people say, Mike, I can't even think of a project. But that's the whole point, right? Is coming up with an idea. Now, I remember designing an iPad app, right? And it helped me land a job at CBS. It was a sports app. It had Kobe, it had LeBron James, and it was I did it for the purpose of a portfolio project. And it helped me land a job. Director was like, hey, I like the detail in that app. I still show that app around to people. And often people say, hey, Mike, why didn't you should have actually develop that app, like really put it out there. But I couldn't see the business model reasons for it, right? I mean, it was a advertising business model, had ads and things like that, but I didn't know I would fall into too much debt to actually build that app rather than profit from it right away. So whereas SaaS products, you can profit from right off the bat. If you hit something that's successful, the residual incomes from the monthly subscriptions, you can profit right away. So that's why I say, hey, tap into the SaaS product market as a fun project that can lead to something maybe more serious, all right? But the 5 reasons, number 1, like I said, and this could be done for anybody if you're 14, 15 years old, 19, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, right? We can all benefit from this right away by taking on this task of this project. And for those of us that are getting started, the experience of figuring it out, asking questions, how do I build a SaaS product? What problems do I solve? The task of that, you benefit from right away. Meaning if you get started on just brainstorming tonight, the things you're going to learn tonight, tomorrow, you can already utilize by talking with people. The experiences in putting this stuff into action can be utilized and you benefit from right away, is what I'm saying. Is there's nothing that will go to waste by you actually taking on this task. Now, the first thing is it forces you to think critically, right? That's the biggie. It forces you to think critically and it forces you to problem solve. Now, I like to say this for like graphic designers or somebody that doesn't really think like a UX designer, you might love the graphics and illustrations and drop shadows and stuff like that. But if you take on the project of a SaaS product, you cannot build a SaaS product without thinking critically, without thinking like a UX designer, without researching, without trying to solve a real business problem out there, right? So it actually takes you away from naturally thinking otherwise and forces you to think critically, play devil's advocate. Hey, what apps are out there on the market? What are they solving? What are they not solving, right? It actually forces you to problem solve and think critically. These are, I would say these are soft skills that are highly valuable and needed as a UX designer. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2 is when you get into the nitty gritty of designing a SaaS product, whether it's a CRM product or everything, the components and the interaction that goes into a SaaS product is UX design work. All right. Whether a lot of people that I know, a lot of designers that start, especially when I got started, I remember I used to design a lot of WordPress apps or WordPress sites, like restaurant sites, sites for law firms, sites for small brick and mortar businesses, right? Like these are cookie cutter brochure sites. They don't have a lot of UX design and interactions in it, but a SaaS product does. Overlays, I like to use the term progressive disclosures, like hiding things behind, drop downs and overlays and logins and admin sections and blah, blah, blah. You get the point. There's a lot of components, a lot of things that are involved and a lot of interaction involved in SaaS products that puts you in the UX design space. All right. So that's number 2. And that's really, for those of us that are experienced, we already understand that. But for those of you that are kind of learning the ropes of UX design, it really puts you in that space. And number 3 is the fact that the SaaS enterprise market is huge. And this one is I like this because I've actually benefited from this. I've been in the enterprise SaaS market space my entire career. And there are many companies that I've worked for that are non-big brands, but I made a great living working for these companies. And a lot of us in the tech space, we think Amazon, we think Google, Facebook, Twitter, or we might think these big, Netflix, we think these big tech brands, but don't sleep on these smaller companies that are making $50 million in revenue. My first company that I worked for, Elite, which was purchased by Thomson Reuters, I remember at the time, I didn't even know this, but the revenue was like $45 million a year, and I love that job, it was great. And another company I worked for called Mitratech, which was an enterprise software company. And I went from a startup that was folding. I was making around $64,000 a year there. When I applied to this job, they offered me a job at $80,000. It was like a $15,000 bump. And that job, I remember, I loved that company. It was like a family-owned business. I actually learned UX design starting at that company, and I loved the people there. The CEO loved me. I loved their family and stuff like that. And I remember my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and it was a good paying job, great benefits, and nobody would even care about the company. But the point is, it was an enterprise software SaaS product company, and you can benefit, we can all benefit from those, right? There's companies that are big brands all the way down to the small. So don't sleep on, enterprise SaaS companies. Now, they're not as sexy, they're not great, they're boring. But the point is, it was perfect for me because I like the work-life balance of these type of companies. You're not working all throughout the night. You have great work-life balance. And for someone like myself, I always dabbled in YouTube and other stuff. So working at a SaaS, enterprise SaaS company obviously benefited me. And that's one of the reasons why I stayed at ADP for like 5 years. So the point is, working at the market's huge. So if you dabble into this SaaS product space, you start building that experience and add this to your resume. That's the point of number 3. Number 4 is doing your own thing, being your own boss. How cool is it to build an app where you don't have to worry about servicing other people? Like, for example, I have a video where I talked about, I think 95% of us, or even more, I think we don't get to do the things that we really love, as designers. We're always following the orders of a product owner, business owners and business leaders and stuff like that. And doing your own thing, you get to choose your colors, choose your style, choose the icon system you want, choose the iconography, the typography, the illustrations, the landing pages, anything you want. It's all you. How great is it? I've taken on the task of designing my own an app for the real estate business. My wife is a real estate agent, and we dabble in that. I dabble in that industry. And one day I want to design an app probably for that industry. And so I dabble, and I created an app recently for my portfolio and for tutorials and things like that. But it's all me. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can do whatever I want. It's all you. So how great is that? That's number 4. And the 5th and final one, like I mentioned, is the financial aspect of it. Now, what I love about this is that the idea of you as someone who loves UX design, building something that you love, but reaping the benefits from it. Like if you are the 1% or the 5% that can actually crack a market and solve a real problem in the marketplace and tap into the market, the financial aspects is amazing. The residual aspects, the business model is lined up perfectly for long-term stability and long-term wealth, right? And you don't have to get a big piece of the pie. So for example, if you made an app for a market and it could reap profits of $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month. It's not a big company, but you and 2 or 3 other people can benefit from that, right? You can slowly grow that business, and you can benefit from it, and reap the rewards of that residual income. So I think long term, as I get older into my 60s and 70s, I would love to be still involved in tech, and and how cool is that to be involved in the industry, but at the same time building something for long-term wealth, as you get older. So the monthly income, the annual income, the enterprise licensing business model of a SaaS product is amazing. And I've learned this when I was at ADP, my colleagues and I was like, how the hell is ADP making $1 billion from this one particular, app that we were doing? I'm like, this stuff is ugly, right? Like this old legacy stuff. And I found out that once someone gets in bed with your product businesses and you really solve a problem, it's hard for them to actually not use your product. And it's amazing. ADP is like a well-oiled machine. Like their revenues are like $12 billion, right? But they have companies that cannot even not use their systems because they've been using it for so long. It would cost them a gazillion dollars to switch from ADP to somebody else. So they just stick with it. Point is, that's the well-oiled machine model of a SaaS product sometimes, right? I digress, but you get the point. The business model is perfect. Anyway, those are the 5 things: the thinking aspect of it, the interaction design components of it, the huge market, the ownership, and the business model aspect of building a SaaS product. Now, it's funny to say, hey, build a SaaS product, but the point is, spend 10 minutes a day brainstorming ideas, right? Give yourself a week or 2 to just brainstorm and look at other ideas on the market. What problems can I solve? What things have I run into, that I might be able to solve? And just take it on as a pet project. It can be something that you do for, throughout the week, something that excites you throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the years. And then, you don't have to have a deadline, but just chip away at it, something that could potentially turn into something. And as you get started right away, you're going to benefit from the experiences and the things you learn instantly. Anyway, guys, that's the video that I have for you. That's the nuggets that I wanted to share. So take these nuggets, marinate on them, put them in the oven, watch them bake, and see where it goes. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Also, I want to thank everybody. I finally hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Shout out to all my subscribers and new subscribers. I'll record a video on that and share my thoughts on that journey. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave me a comment or visit my site, MLU's Academy. Hit me up anytime. I'll be happy to answer any questions. All right, we'll talk soon. Peace.